What you're going to notice in this slide is a lot of negatives, right? We're looking at multiplying. The brackets mean multiplying. Hello. The brackets mean multiplying, but there's a lot of negatives here, okay? Let's make sure we got this right with all the negatives. So we can take it one step at a time, right? A negative times a negative is a positive, but a positive times a negative gives me another negative, and a negative times a negative gives me a positive times a negative gives me a negative, so my answer is going to be a negative. In fact, if you have 3, 5, 7, if you have an odd number of negatives, you're going to get a negative answer. Okay, so let's work through this in a couple of steps. Right? Negative 3 times negative 5 is 30. Sorry, that's not 30. That's 15. I was jumping ahead and I got that 2 in there as well. That's 15. Let's try that again. 15 times negative 2, a positive times a negative, negative 30. Negative 30 times negative 3, negative times a negative is a positive 90. Right? And positive times a negative is going to be a negative answer. 90 times 6, 540. So you're going to have negative 540. Negative 540. Okay, so we'll go with that one. Okay, did that work? Well, 3 times 5 is 15, times 2 is 90, and negative 540. Looks good. Okay, looking at this one, I can say, hold on, there's 1, 2, 3 negatives. So it's an odd number of negatives. So I know the answer is going to be negative, so I don't have to go through each step. But what I would do is I got a fraction, and I need all fractions. So I'm going to make this 8 over 1, and I'm going to make this negative 6 over 1, okay? Just like that. Now, what I can do is I can multiply the numerator and then multiply the denominator. And the one thing you got to look at is the negative in the numerator or in the denominator, right? Well, you can put it in either. I would always put it in the numerator just for consistency purposes. Right? So negative 1 times positive 8 is negative 8. Negative 8 times negative 2 is positive 16. And positive 16 times negative 6 is negative 96. Okay? You can do that on your calculator, right? You can do all of this on your calculator, but this is the theory behind it. Denominator, 2 times 1 is 2, and then times 3, 2 times 3 is 6, times 1 is 6. Okay? So you got negative 96 over 6, and I can simplify that to negative 16. Okay? Negative 16. And there you go. I will do one last thing in green. Some of you learned it this way in high school, and this can work. You learned it and said, well, you know, 2 goes into 2 one time and 2 goes into 8 4 times. 3 goes into 3 one time and 3 goes into 6 2 times. And now all I have are 1s in the denominator. So the numerator, I have negative 1 times 4 is 4. 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. A negative 4 times negative 2, is 8, positive 8. 8 times negative 2, because that negative's still there, is negative 16. And you might have learned that this is negative 16 over 1. It's just a different way to do it. If you've never done it that way, just ignore what I just did. But if you have done it that way, it's a different way to do it. You'll get negative 16 over 1, which of course is the same answer of negative 16. Okay, so there's a couple ways to do it. You may have learned it differently depending on who taught you math in high school.